Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is another buyer's guide. Obviously, when the new cars are released, that is what we cover, and the second of the three is this. Probably one of the most hyped cars I've seen in GT7 so far, probably apart from the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak. This is a Nissan Skyline Super Silhouette from 1984. I believe previously it's only featured in Gran Turismo 2, so it's been over 20 years since this car, last appeared in a Gran Turismo game. I may be wrong on that, but I remember using it a hell of a lot in GT2 way back when. So if you want to buy one for yourself, it's actually a very reasonable price, 1.15 million. So, basically pocket change really. If you do some of the grinding methods which are up on my channel, you'll make that money in no time. Definitely a really, good value really for a car that is very, very hyped. And to be fair, the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak was the same. So on to the lap, and one thing that stood out to me straight away, it's awesome that turbo lag is a thing with this car. It's the exact same with the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak. Being an older machine, that turbo takes a while to kick in, but boy, when it does, it will just go. This car shifts like no tomorrow. And another plus side, all this aero and crazy wide body it's got, completely functional. It's not just there to look cool, it genuinely sticks the car to the ground, and it is unreal some of the cornering speeds you can get with this car. Now it does feel a little bit heavy, a little bit on the heavier side, especially I believe this runs in Group 3, especially compared to some of the more modern Group 3 cars. However, trust me, once you get used to kind of the weight of the car and the way the gear ratios are set up, obviously this is an older machine, it only has a 5-speed gearbox, really, quite long gear ratios. Once you kind of get used to how to run those gears, it doesn't really react to short shifting. It's pretty pointless because, again, how long those ratios are. Trust me, once you get used to the way this thing is, you're going to have an absolute blast. And honestly, this is definitely one of the most fun cars in the game, and I'm really glad it's lived up to the hype. I mean, I will say it now, this car has lived up to the hype that kind of came with it when everyone saw that silhouette on the blacked out posts on Twitter and everywhere really. So definitely well worth the hype, and it's absolutely awesome to see it finally make a return, I believe after over 20 years. Another thing that stands out to me, the look of the car. Now, these cars are, well, this car, should I say, is approaching nearly 40 years old, and it just doesn't look like it. Yes, it looks, okay, kind of dated, but it's just kind of crazy to think these cars are coming up to, 40 years old. So, yeah, definitely, looking the part as well. And again, I mean, the fact that this thing runs in Group 3, if you run this thing in Group 3, I don't know how competitive it is, you will definitely stand out. It's definitely one of the most awesome looking cars we've got in the game. That classic boxy style, but with a really wide, really wide fenders, and, everything, that wing, like being so kind of like strange looking. Like, it looks really like I guess, let's say, I don't know, mid 2010s F1 rear wing, where it's so short and like tall, but then obviously you've got these bits going off it, and I just think it just looks really, really cool. Definitely a stunning looking car. So absolutely awesome to see. Obviously, as you can see here, there's already liveries being made for this car, and I feel like, much like the Suzuki Escudo, this thing's going to have plenty of liveries made for it in such a quick time. Like, you're not going to be waiting long to find one that's for your taste. So I've pretty much touched on everything already. I mean, it's fast, it's loud, it handles very well. Turbo lag's a thing which for me just adds character. I mean, the fact that this thing will kick in, and when it kicks in you're just like hitting light speed. Yeah, it's definitely crazy. So let's touch on the last real thing really, is sound design. What do I think of the sound of this thing? And I think it sounds excellent, but have a listen for yourself and let me know. Oh, another plus side, it absolutely loves to spitfire. So if that's your kind of thing, which it certainly is, pleasing on the eyes for me, run this thing at night, trust me, it'll just be in a ball of fire just coming out those side exit exhausts all the time. It's definitely a sight to see. So yeah, I mean, a really, really cool car. I genuinely do not have a single complaint about it. There's definitely nothing I don't like, nothing that really stands out as an inherent fault. Obviously yesterday I covered the new Porsche 918 Spider, and I said it kind of brought along the flaw that's kind of wrong with Gran Turismo, especially Gran Turismo 7, is the fact that the road cars, while they should be very grippy, these hypercars are known for being, handling very, very well, obviously were very kind of loose when the traction's turned off. And I know the cars are meant to be, but you'd expect a kind of car like that to have grip. Now this is without traction control, and not once did it really budge, no matter how harsh I was on the accelerator, no matter how early I was coming out of corners or running over curbs and such. Even moments where, like you've seen probably a few times, I sort of catch the edge of the car because it's very wide. I sort of catch the edge of the car on the grass and it just won't break traction. So it's kind of weird to see the difference between full-blown race cars and hypercars, handling models in GT7. And when it comes to the handling models for race cars, I think GT7 has it perfect. But again, it just kind of makes you wish that some of these more grippy hypercars, supercars, definitely got an update to their handling. They shouldn't all handle like a classic American muscle car. So yeah. So yesterday I also said the Porsche 918 was definitely in the top 5 or top 10 favourite best looking cars in the game. Well, this one is also in there as well. I think it's absolutely stunning. It's genuinely sort of a timeless design. If you see this thing, you're going to know what it is. Some people may be kind of too young to know just how awesome this thing looked on a racetrack. I believe I don't think there's actually any official footage out there. I've yet to actually see any. But they probably could be quite easy to find some. But currently, if you tap this car in, it just pretty much brings up everything Gran Turismo. But yeah, they really were a sight to see. I mean, a lot of these, 80s, early 90s race cars were just awesome to kind of see on the track. And for me, it definitely is that kind of timeless, boxy look. Like, these days, yes, it looks a bit dated, but with these huge wide fenders and insane bits of aero that you kind of expect to see in more extreme series, like this kind of crazy aero package that you expect to see on F1 cars, not kind of like more GT group cars from way back when. It's definitely awesome, and yeah, just no complaints in any shape or form for this car. I just think it's probably the most perfect Group 3 car we've had added in this game, and like I said, looks wise for me, timeless, definitely up there. The sound design, again, when you're kind of on board, you don't realize how good it actually sounds until you listen. It's kind of, I guess, muted, but that may be because obviously a lot of the time you're going to be in concentration mode, and the last thing you're going to be doing is listening to the engine sound. On board, I absolutely love the onboard view for this car, completely stripped out to the bare metal. You've just got the main basic things you need for a race car, and that is it. Nothing, no fancy dials and such that you don't need, or insane little startup LED displays or whatever the hell some of these cars have. This is just pure analog stick shift manual, the kind of way you want it. I mean, there was definitely sort of a big difference and a big step between, I'd say, sort of the mid-90s to the early 80s. So, I mean, even if you go on board in stuff like the Tom's Castrol Supra and the Nissan Skyline, the GT500, the R34 model, you'll definitely kind of see, just even between that like decade or so, such a huge leap in advancements. And it's awesome to kind of see just how bare bones these 80s race cars were. Definitely, not on the safe side. It did take a lot of obviously sad deaths in motorsport really to kind of get these advancements pushed in, but it's kind of crazy just to see how sort of if you were in an accident, would you really want to be in this kind of car? So yeah, hats off to the people that absolutely threw these things around the track back in the day, and just kind of how awesome they look inside. Definitely a hollowed out pure race car. I mean, if you think race car interior, this is probably what comes to mind. Just like I said, You've got a roll cage, you've got the bare metal, and you've got a classic stick shift manual with all the turbo gauges, and even the steering wheel, I think, definitely stands out to me. I think it looks absolutely awesome. So yeah, very, very well detailed interior view for this car. They've definitely not kind of slacked off with the model. So this is the individual sectors. Yes, today I remembered to include it. I am very sorry to the people that kind of like this bit. But yeah, I've I kind of forgot it yesterday, but it's back today. So there's your individual sectors. Our overall time is a 6 minutes 43 seconds 0.755. So very, very fast, very competitive. So where will it actually place on our lap time leaderboard? Will it even make the top 20? And yes, it does. This, car from 1984 has made the top 20, which is very hard to get into these days. But as you can see in another Group 3 car, which was originally a GT1 spec car with no balance of performance on it, it's around about 4 seconds slower than the DBR9, which obviously, like I said, is a GT1 car. But it has beaten the more modern, I guess, more modern to this car counterparts from GT500, being the Supra and the GTR. So for me, I mean, overall, it kind of just shows you how regulations change over time, whether it kind of, makes the cars slower or makes them faster. So definitely an awesome kind of thing to see. So overall, should you buy this car? Is it worthy of buying? And for the price point it is, it's an absolute bargain. I mean, I feel like most of us are going to have hours and hours of fun with this car, whether you're racing online or grinding with it, because I feel like this may be actually quite good for a grinding build, but we'll see about that. I'll do a few tests. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite cars in the game, and it's absolutely awesome to see these stripped back, wide arch 1980s race cars hit the track in GT7. A worthy addition, and it's good to see it back after nearly 2 decades. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Peace, guys.